7.5 million people tuned into the King's speech this Christmas, topping the TV charts yet again. Does this prove the royal family is important as ever, though? Or was there really not that much on the other side to bother with? Or had you had too much festive spirit by that point? So what do we reckon to this one? Daniel, I'm going to come to you first on this one. Are we out of love with the royal? We watched the King's speech, and I don't know if you saw the documentary last night on the years, Charles's coronation, the year behind the scenes. Fascinating. I think that's going to do very well in the ratings as well. But we're watching them on telly, but really, are they a bit old fuddy-duddy now? We don't really care that much about it?
No, that's completely wrong. I think we love the royal family. There's a small, bitter, vitriolic band of Republicans wandering around. Not much larger than it used to be when I was a child, really. Mostly writing for The Guardian, and it's sort of clickbait to keep themselves in jobs. Everybody else, I think, is perfectly happy with the royal family. They only have to contemplate the alternative for 2 seconds to realise how dreadful it would be. And I don't think the royal family... I'm great supporters of the royal family. Interestingly, it is a family. I think the fact that it is a family, coming back to our discussion at the top of the programme, is really quite important. If it was just a series of discrete, separate individuals, then I don't think it would actually stack up to very much. But it's because it works together as a family. OK, we know they have their problems, but all families do. And I think people are very keen on... I think the King did very well. I think he's really worked his way into a role after what can only be described as, with every respect, the most difficult act to follow in the history of the last 2 centuries.
Richard, I think even you'd agree with that, wouldn't you? That the Queen's a pretty hard act to follow.
Absolutely.
But do we need them now?
I think we do. And I think when the Queen passed away, I think some people suspected that there would be this dip in the support for the monarchy. And you heard some people say, well, this is a personal tie that people have with Elizabeth II. Is it likely to continue? And actually, by and large, support for the institution has continued. And I think, for me, the reason for that goes back to what the Labour Prime Minister Clement Attlee said about the monarchy, himself being a strong supporter of the monarchy, where he said that the monarchy doesn't belong to a particular section of society, it belongs to us all. And if we had an elected head of state, inevitably there would be winners and losers in the choice of who becomes our head of state. And it would be harder for the head of state to truly embody us all and to try to rise above the politics of the day-to-day and to think about representing the best of the nation, which is when monarchy works best, that's what it does.
Daniel, bringing politics into royalty, it has been an incredibly political year as well for the royal family. You've had the whole Harry and Meghan issue that they've had to deal with, which is, again, very, very divisive. You're either Team Harry or Team William.
Who is?
Most people seem very, very animated about this division.
They do, but I don't think there's a huge division in the nation between teams, like it's sort of 50-50. It's sort of, we don't know where we are. I think most people have got rather bored with Harry and Meghan, really, and have put them at the back of their minds and are not really thinking about them anymore. Do you think it's had an impact
on how people think about the royal family? As you've said, it's like they are a family. All families have issues. This is one of the issues they've had recently. Do you think it's tarnished the image of the royal family, all the stuff we've learned about what goes on behind their closed doors?
Well, no, I don't, actually, because I think what really is important is how members of the royal family respond and how they behave. And do they behave with the sort of dignity and self-restraint that we expect from people as following the lessons the late Queen sort of created for how the royal family should conduct itself. And I think the fact that they don't respond, that they do conduct themselves with restraint and with a degree of dignity, wins them sympathy and really makes stories eventually go away. To that extent, they're sort of they're impervious to these stories over the longer term. And I think the Harry and Meghan thing is really quite juvenile, and nobody takes it seriously as a criticism of the institution. There are other things you might think of that might be one day in the future, but at the moment, Harry and Meghan are not in that. This is tittle-tattle. This is EastEnders in Buckingham
Probably more
Palace.
Shameless, to be honest with you. Have you ever watched Shameless?
No, I never watched Shameless.
No, it's very posh Shameless.
I have to say, I've never watched EastEnders either, I have to admit. But
Coronation
I've heard
Street?
of it. No.
Emmerdale?
No, we used to watch Crossroads when I was a child, which ruled out
Right.
Coronation Street. 'Cause
Right.
They were on at the same time.
Yeah, okay, fine. Richard, go on. What soaps do you watch?
I'm just a Great British Bake Off person, and that's it for me.
Getting ready for your wedding cake, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
Queen, never complain, never explain. Now, the royals going to church over Christmas. We also saw Fergie back in the royal fold, walking along with Andrew. If there has been issues with Harry and Meghan, there's certainly issues and more issues coming up with Prince Andrew. Do you think that has tarnished the royal family?
I think the Prince Andrew story has, but I think that the reaction of both the late Queen and the King to this, which is to sort of take him out of the public role. Obviously, they went as a family to the Christmas service, but was taking him out from his HRH status and so on was the right decision. The royals who are the most popular are the royals who adhere to that idea of duty, which I think is what the monarchy has evolved to become as an institution that is there to provide service and to promote different causes and people around the country and the Commonwealth, and people like Princess Anne and, quite frankly, the King himself. They just get on with it and they go out and they do that work. And their modelling, or their model for that is Queen Elizabeth II. When she died, the former Labour Prime Minister of Australia, Paul Keating, who was actually a Republican, but he gave his fair dues to Queen Elizabeth II, where he said that she aligned herself with the public realm and the public good and public duty. And again, when there are members of the royal family who seem to stray from that, and it's about private interest or private celebrity or what benefits them in the moment, those are the kind of people who will find themselves cut out of the family in the extreme. But I think that's necessary for its survival as an institution.
So cutting off Harry and Meghan, cutting off Prince Andrew would be the way to go?
Not as members of the family, and they can be privately involved in the family, but in the public role of the family, I think that was the decision that had to be taken. And I think it's proven to be the right one.
So how did you feel then, Daniel, that you saw Prince Andrew walking to church on Christmas Day with Sarah Ferguson, who hasn't been there, I think, since the early 90s?
Well, how did I feel about it?
Yeah, were you pleased to see that?
Strangely enough, I didn't feel hugely excited one way or the other about it. But the fact is that the Yorks...
But you were talking about the family earlier on, and how important the family is.
The Yorks have clearly had a strange relationship. I mean, no, not strange, an unusual relationship since their divorce, because they've sort of stayed semi-married as far as.
But they live in the same house.
Make out.
To be fair, they have got an east wing and a west wing.
And really, who can complain about that? I mean, the fact that two people are nominally divorced but carry on being married is surely a good thing, rather than falling apart in bitterness and having lots of quarrels. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, yes, she's effectively his wife, and if he's there, she should be there as well. She hasn't done anything.
Should he be there, though?
Yeah, I think he's part of the family. I think you've got to, as Richard says, I think there are occasions when Andrew should be there. And I think both the late Queen and the current King have made that absolutely clear, that he is not being kicked out of the family, that his public role might have ceased, but he's not being kicked out of the family. And of course, he was present, at certain functions over the Jubilee and whatever, that the Queen approved and so forth. And I think that's fine.
Did you both watch it, by the way, the King's Christmas message?
I did, yes.
Yes, you did. Did you both watch Strictly Come Dancing?
No.
I missed that one.
Which was the second highest rated programme. 7.84 million watched the King's Christmas message and 5.29 million watched Strictly Come Dancing. Next was Doctor Who, if you're interested.
I did watch Doctor Who.
Did you?
Yeah, I remember the first episode of Doctor Who. I'm just old enough to have watched it as a child. I am a Doctor Who. I remember that first. It was in a sort of scrapyard.
Yes.
And you went into the scrapyard, and I think it's been lost now, that episode, by the BBC.
They did lose a lot, didn't they?
Yeah, but you go into the scrapyard, and there was this police box in the scrapyard, and you have two young people discovering it. And of course, then there's this elderly curmudgeon who comes out of it, and then with long hair, William.
It was, yes. I sort of remember it. Thank you very much. Right, we have to move on.
Great.
We have to move on, but it's getting better.
Great.
It's getting better. It's getting better.